Hello, welcome to the
Reload.
Halloween episode of Cool Bandana Guys Game of the Generation podcast. We've got Matt, Jason, Hunter, and our special guests Brian David Gilbert and Will Wheaton joining us today. I'm Ryan Rowland.
Are you rolling Will Wheaton and Brian David Gilbert into one person? Do I need to put up a picture of Will Wheaton?
No, you're Will Wheaton. You're Will Wheaton.
I thought he was.
Do I really look like Will Wheaton?
Davis.
You look like young Will Wheaton, TNG.
There's a Will. There's
God,
a Wheaton.
man, that's the worst thing I've ever fucking heard.
I like it, Jason.
But yeah, we are doing a Game of the Generation podcast on this day of days. It's actually going to be split out into several different categories, the same way that our Game of the Year, generally speaking, is. But this time we are going for everything that was in the PS4, Xbox One generation of consoles. The only thing that makes it really, really weird are Nintendo's consoles kind of coming out midway of both of them. So some
so you get
games
tail end of Wii U and you get beginning part of Switch.
Which I don't know how much
have good games.
Wii U has a lot of good games. They've just all been ported to Switch.
One of them hasn't.
Pikmin 3, baby.
Pikmin 3 got ported.
What?
Not the one I mean.
You can edit that out in post, right?
You're just gonna bass boost it.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
Pikmin 3. But yeah, this is going to follow the same general style as our typical Game of the Year podcast, where we're going to pick our different categories, go through bottom to top, and we're just going to talk about our fifth, then fourth, so on and so forth. Some people might not have fifths or fourths. They can just pass their fucking turn. I don't care. I have five of everything because I play too many goddamn games.
Sean had to mute himself because he couldn't stop laughing.
I saw your big hat.
It's a big hat.
What categories are we doing for this episode?
So this episode is going to be the best visuals episode. No, I'm gonna individually do them as videos.
I got
going to be the best visuals episode, and then we'll do other categories. It's a abridged list from our normal Game of the Year slate of categories, but this is going to be the best visuals category. Kept intentionally broad for the obvious reasons, but we're going to start off with a Mr. Matthew for his number 5 best visuals.
My number 5, I don't know how to speak, but I put Baba at number 5. I just really like the way that it fucking looks.
Baba is you?
Yeah. No, Baba.
Yes.
Baba is Duke.
Yeah, Baba's got a really good look to it. I think it's really good pixel art. I think it works to serve its.
I like the way that it just I like the way that everything just wiggles the whole time as time passes. I dig it a lot. I think it's really good.
It's pretty charming, yeah.
Yeah. Am I doing my whole list?
No. Just do your number 5 and then say when you want to pass that shit to the left-hand side.
I mean, that's basically it.
Okay. So normally when we do Game of the Year, we've got 3 different entries on it. So I normally do like realistic graphics, pixel art, and then stylized graphics.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense in a Game of the Generation thing to do a realistic graphics thing because it's pretty much just balanced to whatever has come out very, very recently. But I would like to pay some specific lip service to Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that I do not like, but I'm not going to sit here and say that game isn't one of the most gorgeous, technical graphic achievements I've ever fucking seen. And I realize that it maybe doesn't run the best on a lot of the consoles and how the PC version can really get that shit going. But I think just down to every little detail in it, that super expensive game has a lot to show for it.
Yeah, just they somehow made the snow look good. They made the water look good. All these things that have never looked quite right still look pretty good. Look great in that game. You got clouds that change.
Yeah,
you got snowy mountains in there for Matt.
That's my favorite thing.
Can't snow.
I love me a good mountain.
But yeah, that game's gorgeous.
Yeah, Red Dead's my number 5.
Just make it 45,000 hours shorter.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to finish that game, but oh boy, it was nice to look at what I did play.
Yeah. It's a good game. It's 5 good games.
Ryan, what you got for your number 5?
Oh, my number 5 is Kentucky Route Zero.
Good looking game.
Yeah, super stylized. Very kind of like abstract and surreal, but still kind of based in this Americana nostalgia kind of thing. And I really like it. It does a lot of really interesting things with perspective. It's a super pretty looking game, super cool looking game. And a lot of what's that?
I googled pictures of it to see what you're talking about.
And does it look cool?
It's got that nice Jeff Keighley's Game Awards statue look.
Yeah, it's like a 400-foot tall bald eagle.
Yeah,
Big bald eagle.
it's I really like the way everything looks in it. I mean, there's a lot of other things I like about that game, but specifically, like that's what made me play the game was how cool it looked. And it still sticks with me, even though I haven't finished it completely.
But it's super cool that you're able to count it in Game of the Generation because it finally came out.
It took an entire generation for the fucking game to come out.
Truly,
for anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a 5-episode kind of episodic thing. And between each episode, it took like 3 years to come out. So it literally took an entire generation for this game to come out. I think it finally released this year, started coming out in like 2013 or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Sean, what you got for your number 5?
All right, so I didn't necessarily put mine in an order, so I've put a little order here together here real quick. I think my number 5 is going to be Abzu, which
great looking game.
Is essentially it's a game that to be played, I would say almost. I was in it almost exclusively for the visuals. It's something that you play through to look at everything, to see a whale jump. Once it gets to the sort of creepy part at the end, it's got the very like stark monolith kind of looks. It's got just great cell shading all the way through. I love it. It's so pretty. It's not much else, but it's very pretty.
I think it's like really easy to dismiss that game as just like Ocean Journey, but I think that its visuals are striking in a way that kind of the softness of Journey isn't.
Mm-hmm. And I've also never played Journey. Is the thing.
I prefer it to Journey. I think the ocean's a lot more interesting to look at.
Beautiful game.
Yeah, I think the gameplay's more interesting.
Jason, what you got? What's your number 5 best visual?
So my number 5 is Unravel. I haven't played it in a while, and I really meant to like hop back in it before we did this, but I mean, being a game that doesn't have dialogue and only has one character, it's just visuals and music. So I think that it's able to have like emotion carried through just with what you see on screen, and I think the character looks pretty cool. And the way, like, just following a single strand of yarn through the entire game is visually appealing. I don't know if any of you have really played it.
I have. I think I played about half of it. But yeah, they do a really good job with, I guess, like making everything in it seem really realistic, even for like one of those 2.5D puzzle platformer things. And I think typically kind of have the dark expressionist styles like your Limbo and stuff like that. And this is like, oh, here's kind of real and nostalgic.
Yeah, it's cottage. It's got that cottage feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Cottage core.
Yeah, it's cottage core. Actually, I think I might be able to say Unravel is definitely cottage core.
Oh, having not played it, I was just throwing that as a goof, but it could unironically be.
Yeah, it's cozy. It makes you feel like you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Unravel, good looking game. Second one also looks fantastic, but it's a lot more of the same.
Realistically, maybe the second one would have been on my list instead, but I still haven't played it.
That'll be the next item on Jason's list.
Number 4, Unravel 2.
It's one notch better. Hunter, what you got?
I did try to do the whole realistic pixel stylized thing at first, but I was like, wait, shit, we need 5. This isn't going to work. But I just did Control for number 5.
Yeah.
I know I said this last year, but the PC version with like the ray tracing and the RTX and all that crap, it's just, the game is actually stunning. Like, and since I played it on the original Xbox, and how crappy it runs on there. It's just even
It
more.
runs
stark.
so bad.
Original Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
That
I
was
cut the
one-
disc
that was
up and
one of
played
the,
it on my GameCube.
That was a game I cut out of mine. Like, but it made it into like at least the first couple rounds before I started crossing things
Yeah,
off.
I think it
and,
was like my number 7 or so.
It's
Yeah.
a game that's going to crack a number of my categories, so I didn't feel like it needed to be in visuals.
Hopefully,
I've got-
I'll knock it off of my missed connections before we get to missed connections.
A lot of spoilers.
I paid an additional $40 so I can get a better looking control here in a couple weeks
Nice.
because I want that game to look so good.
It does the
Might pick it
realistic
up on
graphics
PS4.
really well, but then it also has a really good style.
Yeah, that
Uh,
all the brutalist architecture in it is just my exact jam.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in the oldest house at all times.
You are the oldest house.
I want to be the fridge guy.
If the Joker walked into the oldest house, he'd be like, "This is a normal house."
Wow.
Oh, God.
Number 4.
It really makes you think.
So anyways,
Number 4.
I put Fury for my number 4.
Great looking fucking game.
I love it. I love the art style of it. I like how the colors are just really super deep, all the way through.
You heard it here, folks. Matt's a Fury.
Especially, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I really like the color purple, and I feel like the purples in that game are just like real deep and vibrant.
Big Prince
and
guy.
Good purples.
You're damn right.
He's a big
I just-
Saints
I
Row.
big Oprah
it looks
guy.
really good. Yeah, so that's why I just love it. Looks great.
It's a cool looking game. The characters were designed by the Afro Samurai guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is
didn't know
I love that like
that
look
tracks.
that I like the in addition to just like the graphics and like the cell shaded like look, I think that it has a cool art design, much like Control. Like it's a really independent of its graphics. It looks cool.
Too bad it
Mhm.
sucks.
you.
Oh,
Oh,
Eat my balls,
Fuck you.
Hunter.
Fuck you.
Shia LaBeouf was really good in it.
The movie Fury,
Anyways.
where he knocked his tooth out.
Oh, the tank movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Dash could only think about holes.
Was Brad Pitt in that?
digging them up.
He's not the
Okay.
only one who can only think about holes.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Colette walks in.
All I'm saying is sploosh.
Ooga.
Kaboom.
I keep thinking Coilet is at a computer directly behind Sean.
He is.
The-
He gave
Jason,
her a
that
high
joke
five
was
earlier.
that thing was said 2 times before you logged on.
He gave her a high five earlier. It went great.
She was wearing a vampire fedora.
There you go.
So my number 4, I wanted to give a slot to a VR game specifically. So I was really racking my brain on like what VR game do I think kind of has the best visuals, what game looks the best, and
Rick and
it
Morty.
started with Super Hot, then it switched to Beat Saber, and then I ended up cutting them both because I forgot about the sleeperest of sleeper VR hits. But my number 4 pick is Polybius. It is maybe the number 1 VR game that I just kind of want everyone to play for a little bit. It's by Jeff Minter, who's like the guy who did like Tempest 3000 and a bunch of other things. It is fundamentally just a tube shooter, but it is this audio visual fucking nightmare mess of you rocketing through a tube shooting like cows and llamas and all sorts of mines and explosions and low poly shit, and it's just it is overwhelming and has a really good sense of speed, which is something I really like in VR. And it's maybe my number 1, like I just want people to put the headset on and just fucking play this.
I never
It's-
even heard
yeah.
of that. That's really
Once you
exciting.
get into kind of like the groove of it, it's crazy. Like it's a super unique VR. I mean, really just a gaming experience in general, where it kind of feels like your brain is dying, and what it would be like if your brain is dying.
Yeah, I think that the gameplay's in it. It's kind of mediocre because again, it's just like a tube shooter, but just
pretty
to play
tubular.
it, and when you get like later into it, it just feels wild to play. And you can play it without VR, but I think that game is pointless without VR, frankly.
Mhm.
But in VR,
fun.
it's one of my favorite and I think coolest experiences, and that's why it's my number 4.
Just before we move on, I want to say that Tube Shooter used to be my nickname.
Used to.
I mean,
Before the accident.
before I got divorced.
Ryan,
Oh, is
go
it me?
for it. Yeah.
What's your
So-
favorite Tube Shooter?
Yeah. Yeah, we're all in different spots, Dash.
I know, but it
not on
works on
his
mine.
screen.
Mine's the one that's recording though.
How many episodes are we going to talk about this in?
All of them.
There was a trend this generation of trying to do craft stuff and make it look
Craft punk, yes.
really good. Yeah, there was a craft punk vibe.
Craft Punk
But
got
I
delayed
think
again.
there is one game that I think did it the best, and they did it really early on. And I think I'm the only one who played it. But Tearaway Unfolded.
Brother. I will back you the fuck up on Tearaway
That game,
Unfolded.
it looks amazing, and they got that they managed to get all the animation in it to look like stop motion animation. But I think that game is the craft created stuff type genre, whatever you want to call it, whatever Yoshi's Woolly World is or Paper Mario or anything like that. It looks better than all of those games, and it came out super early on in the generation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you because it was originally a Vita game, but then they got a PS4 port. Except it's not like a port of the same game, but it's like a sequel onto PS4. Somebody fucking bought a Vita, and then one of the people from that went on to do Knights and Bikes, right?
Yeah, and then I think it's Media Molecule who did Tearaway, so it's the same people who did Little Big Planet
3 at the time.
Yeah, they did Dreams, all that stuff.
Yeah, Tearaway's fucking. I also think that Tearaway is a super competent 3D platformer, and I wish that it had kind of taken off more because I think it was cool.
Me too. So I had the PS4 for only a couple of weeks when I first had it, and it was that game is on that list of the few I actually played while I owned it, and it's going to be one of the first ones I pick up if I get a PS5 or a PS4 or something. This was a cool ass game that kind of slipped under the radar.
Cool game. Sean, what you got for your number 4?
So I kind of debated whether or not to put this on there because it's kind of an inherited visual from its source material, but Alien Isolation, because it so easily could have been they could have not really iterated on the old lo-fi tech look of Alien, and I guess I am specifically referring to how well it that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's a movie that I think still looks good despite being from 1980. And I feel like this game fully captures that look in a way that you get to move around in, and I love that. I love just the scene where the first time you see the other ship pass by the big window. I'm like, wow. I love it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had that one on my list for a while, and it was probably my number 6. It was one of the last ones I cut because it's something that they actually thought about, how the weird alien environment and aesthetic works. Because they could have so easily just been oh, here's a hallway that's a hexagon, and it would have been well enough. But it felt really well thought out and an actual I don't know, alien world, I guess.
Yeah, and it adds to the spookiness of it, but it's distinct from a Dead Space kind of scary space game. It's definitely its own look, And
I think that the models of the, what are they called, worker Joes? It's been a hot minute since I played Alien Isolation. I think that the way those look, or I don't want to quite invoke Uncanny Valley on it, but something about them just looks artificially spooky in a way that I think
it's their cyborgs
works with. I mean, yeah, I know that they're I thought they were androids.
They are.
Okay. But it's just I think that the look of them lends themselves very well to the horror that game is trying to evoke. But I think that I totally agree with you. As someone who loves Alien, that game nails the look.
And I also think that even though people go back and forth about all the whether or not the game is too long and too many just android sequences, but I think
we're here for that. We're here for the visual,
right? But I think the kind of using that to lean into that Uncanny Valley thing, because the when there's actual people on screen, it's a little it's a little of the time, but I think it does. I think that's what I mean to say in many words is I agree.
Jason, who is your number 4?
So my number 4 is Ape Out. I don't have a good way to describe why it's so good, but it just is.
Don't worry, we all already know.
Yeah, no, Ape Out is good. I don't think anyone will dispute that.
Nah,
Anyone
Ape
who's
Out
anyone
sucks.
knows
I'm
that it
more
looks
of an
good.
Ape In guy.
Well, Hunter, then guess what? It has
Good news.
Ape in it.
What?
Yeah, it's kind of like just these solid colors until things are happening, and there's like just splashes of color,
like
but it's all very distinct.
It's
I
Solid
can't think of a game to
colors.
compare it to even.
It's
Panther.
It's extremely
Yeah,
simple,
actually.
but also really detailed at the same time in a way that I don't know how to really like look at deeper.
It kind of reminds me of. It feels like it's cut from the same cloth as like Nidhogg, maybe.
Yeah.
Not exactly the same.
The first
like,
one? Yeah.
Yeah. But just it's like in that wheelhouse. Like they're from the same family. They're cousins.
The what was it? Proteus, similar.
Proteus is a little like it too, yeah.
And this the way it looks, it does a really good job filtering out all of the information you do and do not need to see at any given time. That just makes you able to laser focus. I love the look of Ape Out.
Yeah.
Good choice, Jason.
Yeah. Hunter, hit me with it.
Again, I did the whole pixel thing. I went with Owlboy just because, you know, that game, it looks really good. I never played it, but it also took like 7 years to come out or some bullshit like that, and they would just be like updated like every other month. Be like, hey, here's my new animation. Okay, we're still at 12%.
Yeah.
Good.
One of the best pixel arts I ever made, like hands down. The animations just look good. The landscapes, everything about it.
That kind of kicked off the like high bit movement in video games for a little bit, didn't it? It wasn't a very long movement, but it was like there was a lot of people just like, we're gonna fucking cram 10 pounds of pixels in a 5-pound bag.
You can't get that many pixels in that bag.
You're gonna spill.
Maddie, what's your number 3?
My number
So
3.
I love that we've gone this far without having any repeats. That's been nice.
Well, there's
don't
only
worry.
A billion
We'll get
games
there.
to choose from. My number 3, I went with Undertale
Okay.
for a similar reason to Baba, but and I mean, I guess similarly to why Jason chose Ape Out. It's so simple, but very detailed at the same time. Like, I mean, 90% of the world is just black and white nothingness behind you, but everything that you need is there all the time, and I think it's fantastic. I think it looks good. It's simple enough that you could play it on your fridge, which isn't saying a whole lot, but you could do it, and I love it. I think it's great.
I also think it does a really good job, like doing what it's an homage, like the kind of the Earthbound and Mother, like homages without being too the same. Like it's distinct enough to be its own thing, but like clearly venerating that one particular game that it is very much venerating.
Yeah.
And everything's super like recognizable in it. Like everything's so well designed that I could look at a menu from Undertale and be like, oh, that's an Undertale menu. Oh, this is a battle screen. That's an enemy. Like every single thing in there I could just recognize on sight.
And also the times where it like looks like absolute shit, but that somehow adds to the charm of it. Like Burger Pants' face just being like really all the portraits just they look like dog shit, but are so endearing as a result. So my number
well
3,
deserved of number 3, if not higher.
Undertale's a good. I think that Undertale, it's like it's not one that you would see on like any like best visuals list, but I think that it does. Its visuals are deliberate and effective in a way that I do enjoy.
Yeah, well, best visuals lists are usually reserved for your Red Deads and your Forzas and your realistic.
Look, Forza's got some round motherfucking tires, and that is impressive itself. But my number 3 is a game that is going to come up fairly often throughout these videos, I think. And I almost am sad because I forgot to put it. This is the game that I was thinking about last night as I was going to sleep. It's like, how the fuck did I forget about this? But my number 3 for visuals is Hollow Knight. There are a lot of games, much like kind of high bit's been a bit of a trend. There have been a non-zero amount of games going for like the hand-drawn aesthetic, and I think that few games have nailed it well ever. But then fewer still do it even as well as Hollow Knight does. I think everything about Hollow Knight looks good, every single animation, every single character, everything about it. But then on top of that, the entire aesthetic of like the bugs and all of that, I think is supremely well done. there's this artist on Twitter who went and did Hollow Knight versions of every single Dark Souls boss, and it's such a cool, like, distinct look while still being able to show a lot without even telling, without like needing to give you like any other descriptors other than just kind of like looking at it and you understand so much about it, how it fits into the greater world, and it just keeps it up the entire fucking game. It all looks fantastic.
Yeah, from the little bit I played, it was cool. It's all hand drawn and stuff, but still somehow feels pretty immersive, and everything's wholly unique to it. Like if somebody's like, "Oh, it's a game where you run around as a bug," and it's like you kind of have an idea of what that looks like, but then you see Hollow Knight and you're like, "That's not what I expected a bug to look like," but I like it.
Don't worry, I'm gonna have another game on my list where you run around as a bug.
Life.
But yeah, that's my number 3, Hollow Knight.
My number 3 is one that I just talk about all the time when I want to show off something that just looks cool and looks crazy. And this is actually what I thought Dash was going to say when he was talking about the VR game. It's Thumper.
Ooh, good job.
Yeah, I knew that was coming up somewhere.
It's just so cool looking. It's another kind of simple thing of just you've got this weird little space scarab that's scooting down a curvy space highway, but you just have these like this weird kind of psychedelic background and a bunch of geometric shapes that pop up. And it's a rhythm game, so everything needs to be very streamlined, very recognizable as stuff pops up. But yeah, just the boss designs and all those geometry and stuff that's shifting around it's wholly unique to this game, and it's cool. Like the style's really cool. I haven't seen anything else since then, except honestly, maybe like some of the boss designs in Control kind of hit that same.
Yeah.
Here's a weird
like
kind of
tendrils.
Yeah, amorphous, but really geometrical at the same time.
I honestly thought
that's my
Thumper
number 3.
I thought Thumper was going to be the other one that Dash talked about, where you run around as a bug.
Nah.
You drive around as a bug.
Yeah.
No, this
You
is more
scoot
like
around as a bug.
Thumper was one that I toyed with it, and I just didn't crack it into the top 5 because I haven't played it enough. I still want to play it more.
I honestly forgot about Thumper. It still wouldn't have made my top 5, but I did like forget about it when I was considering the categories.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I thought it came out last generation.
No,
You
not enough
fool.
graphics. Couldn't get a round enough beetle on the Xbox 360 generation.
You can see all the corners on this beetle. All right.
John, go for it.
My number 3, I'm going to go with Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
Just those, Richard Scary ass looking.
Oh yeah.
Cute ass little animals, but also like has I feel like all the depth effects whenever you're outside of the town are just in the right way to make you feel scared in the woods. Like, I don't find that game, like, I don't think the core of that game is particularly scary, but there's a spookiness that it really gets through that I found really effective. And like any of the scenes that where you would run into one of the things that are scary, I don't want to spoil anything about this game,
Too scary?
Yeah, when you would run into Richard Scary, Mr. Worm driving his apple, it would the visuals really gave off a sense of being alone in a place that's unkind, and I loved it for that.
I also think that the general, just like, I guess you call it like the set design of the town, like Possum Springs, looks the exact way that they are trying to convey it being. I love Night in the Woods. It's one of my absolute favorites of that kind of thing. But like, I play it more to get a sense of melancholy, and I think it's very effective at conveying that feeling. Just it's kind of throughout, while still like being upbeat where it needs to be, but the whole town is kind of just like, it's seen better days.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said set design. Like that's what it does. That really strong. Set design, character design does that really strongly, and also. I just drove through Pennsylvania last week. Really, really nails it in just like broken down mining towns. Like it gets that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I drove through Markervania, and it was.
And you ran into Simon Belmont. Jason, get us out of here. What's our number 3?
And my number 3 has snowy mountains in it.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
Steep. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It has some really, really, really dope snowy mountains, and just
Can confirm.
it's just a game that I can turn on and slide down a snowy, beautiful hill for like a couple hours and just relax and have no goals, because that game really doesn't have a goal. You just go down the mountain.
You just snowboard a bunch of times.
But
Some might call it the best game the year it came out.
It's got some really pretty snow.
I think there's something to be said for focusing all of your stuff onto one fucking mountain and making that one fucking mountain look really good.
Yeah.
We'll say the
But
stuff.
they try to
like-
make you think that there's multiple mountains. But it's all just the same mountain.
One steep mountain.
The titular mountain.
I don't get it.
Oh, and it's titular, all right.
Hunter, what's your number 3? Coming down the mountain.
I put this one in a.
That's what we call a callback.
I added it in a kind of like they were working with what they had kind of way, or like working with limited hardware, because it was a 3DS game, and it was From Them Echoes, just because like it's not too terribly impressive model wise, but like the combat animations and shit, you can actually see how they've got more familiar with the system and how to actually change and do shit with it. So it's not just one guy runs over to another and smacks him, takes 5 damage, and then runs back to the original spot and waits to get hit. They actually like do flips and dodges and blocks and shit like that.
Anime shit.
Yeah.
I also think that I didn't play a whole lot of Echoes just because it was a little bit hostile compared to newer Fire Emblem entries, let's say. But I think that they improved it a lot visually over Awakening. And given like Awakening had much less of a budget or effort kind of put to it like this would, since this came after Awakening made all of the motherfucking money. But I think that you can see them improving with it, and I really enjoyed that.
Plus, like the portraits and like the full body shots of the characters are fucking beautiful. The artist did a great job.
It's a bummer they went back on all that when they released Three Houses.
Yeah.
It's because they were working on a weaker system, I bet.
It's because they got it's because the Dynasty Warriors people were helping them.
Oh, God damn it. Oh, well. Matt, getting into number 2.
Number 2, I put Cuphead.
Hey, number 2
Cuphead.
Cuphead.
Come up sometime.
Yeah,
Hey, me too.
Hey,
hey.
okay, great. All right.
Cumhead.
More like
and
Bugman.
Fucking got him, dude. Whoa.
I heard a rumor that we have fun here.
It's a
That's the
lie.
other game where you're
Don't
running
spread
as
it
well.
around, though.
I'm not sure what there is to say about Cuphead that isn't obvious.
It's Cuphead. It looks the way Cuphead
Yeah, it's
does.
like that
It looks
game.
good.
That game is a absolute masterpiece of visuals, and honestly, I almost gave it my number 1.
It is
But
a national treasure.
yeah, like I'm
Ask
still in
Nick Cage.
disbelief at just like how good that game looks. And given it's like they spent a really long time doing it, but it paid off in spades.
Yeah,
I distinctly remember like seeing the E3 sizzle reel where it was on for just like 2 frames or so, and it immediately like hooked everyone in the room. Like, wait a minute, go back to that. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And Cuphead is a really good looking game. Some might call it the best looking game of, I want to say, 2018.
yeah, it is.
Who would say such a thing?
I may have said, I don't remember. Cuphead looks really good though.
Go listen to the old podcasts and comment down below while you're down there pressing that bell icon.
Yeah, you're going to hit the like button, you are going to hit subscribe, and you're going to donate to the motherfucking Patreon.
Okay,
The
dislike
dash will
button,
set up today.
Sure.
subscribe, then unsubscribe, and
I'm
then
telling you, I
block
want
the
to
channel.
start uploading this to OnlyFans. I think there's an irony market there.
I mean,
You don't even get irony views on YouTube.
as
Well,
your
Sean.
only fan, I don't think your market's gonna.
Just upload it to Sean's Facebook.
But yeah, like
Also,
Cuphead,
sorry.
no, I mean just Cuphead's my number 2. I don't think it feels weird to talk about because like what the fuck is there to say about that game that hasn't already been said?
Which,
It's
well,
so
if you don't know what it is, it looks like an old, like 20s, 30s cartoon. It all looks hand drawn, and it looks exactly like it. It doesn't have that weird kind of like separation where it looks like it's made in Flash or anything. Like it legitimately looks like you're playing a cartoon.
You can run it through any resolution between you can run it in like 480, you can run it in 4K, and it looks more or less the same just because of the way everything scales and how the game looks, which unfortunately means you can't make that game look any better than it already does.
I gotta say,
just give everything anime eyes.
Spoiler alert! I feel bad for not putting Cuphead on my list. That's how much of a like good visual thing it is. But I just know that I didn't really. A, I know multiple people are going to be talking about it, and B, I didn't give it enough time. But that's how good it looks. Is that I feel bad for not even like throwing it number 5.
Why would you want to give time to
it's
an
not on
easy
mine
baby
either.
game?
I wanted to put it on mine, but I couldn't because I hate that game.
Just get good.
The salty baby.
DLC coming out soon.
I can't even imagine how much time I've spent on that goddamn roller coaster. Still never beaten it.
Ryan, do you have what's your number 2 that isn't Cuphead?
It's been talked about already, but it's Red Dead 2. I think that game just looks fantastic. So that's kind of my like realistic, fancy graphics slot. Not that I really do it that way, but that's what I was thinking with that one. Those will never be, for the most part, my top ones, but it needs to be given a nod. It just like there are so many times in that game where I just stop and look at things, and I can't even imagine the hours put forth into just like, I'm going to design the inside of a house that is more detailed than anything I've seen in a game. Or
check out this horse's nutsack.
Exactly.
It shrinks when it's
way
cold.
too much care into it.
just
like stand on a cliff and
trail.
watch a storm roll in and watch how it realistically interacts with the trees. Like everything down to just the finest details is there, whether it needs to be or not. It's just like it feels the most realistic and forward thinking of any visuals wise of any game I've played.
No more visually impressive way to watch a bunch of Klansmen burn themselves than Red Dead 2.
Tell you what.
Sean, hit us with the number 2.
So my number 2, I was trying to refresh my memory earlier, and I was like looking up screenshots, and none of the individual screenshots I feel like look good, but it's a great moving visual experience. What Remains of Edith Finch, which is unfortunately another game that I don't want to spoil anything about because each individual segment is kind of it's a game full of extremely visual segments that each tell their own little story, and it feels like being in a dream in each one, and it's another one that gives off a great sense of sadness, and it's one that like the imagery of various of the segments stuck with me. Like they're ones that I go back to when I think about, what's a cool looking sequence in a game. I gotta get some that I could talk about without feeling like I'm spoiling.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to talk too much about it. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater or anything.
Exactly.
It's got really good text all over it. Like the way it displays every single line of text in it is fantastic. The one that I guess the one I would go to is the kite one. I think that's got some.
The kite one, the fish one, I think those two are my favorites. Yeah.
The set pieces in that are all just super creative. Like you never really know what you're going to get into with each separate story, and they all look unique.
And somehow no weak point. I think best one I've played.
It is at least my number 2, if not my number 1.
I haven't played the
walking
hits.
simulators.
Oh, okay.
Also, that game acknowledges the Unfinished Swan, which any game that acknowledges the Unfinished Swan in any capacity is good in my book.
Unfinished.
Lord knows no one else did. Jason, number 2. You got to make a number 2.
My number 2 is Rage 2. I think
like
it was,
Pink?
I'm pretty sure it was my number 1 for visuals for last year, and I don't know why. I just really like all of the magenta stuff in it.
Yeah.
I like that they work it into the whole game, and it's like very obvious that if a thing is magenta, you're supposed to go do something to it. And I like games that do that, but don't make it like I like that over just like making something glow.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a glowing white, meaning you're just supposed to go touch the thing. Just making like all of the key parts of the game that same color to the point where it still like fits in with the whole like color theme of the game, because they're so common that it just looks like an important thing going on at all times. But it's like you see the cases have the magenta lids, anything you're supposed to climb is that same color. And just, I don't know, that, and in general, I thought that game looked cool, how you interact with all the bad guys, all the different like effects, like doing the black hole that pulls, that like floats up, pulls all the bad guys in, then like explodes everybody out. I think that all the animations look really good.
Yeah, I think the magenta in that reminds me of it's not a game I've played, but I've watched like theory videos about like horror game design, and like Outlast, how it does its stuff is it'll light, it's an open world or open area game, but it'll light the areas that you need to go, so it gives you hints of kind of what you need to do, so you have a little bit of guidance without it being like go here, go over here. It's just like they activate something in your brain that's like, I want to go towards that light over there.
Yeah, and it's like the first time you run into like a zip line, I don't think anything tells you you're supposed to go down it, but you just see like a little magenta thing you can grab onto on the edge of like a cliff, and you walk over and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to slide down this.
Mm-hmm.
It just like triggers it without saying it.
Uncharted does the same thing, but they do like white kind of paint on everything. But I think the way Rage does it with the pink makes it pop in a way that's really, really, really good. And it like a contrast against the kind of like dull beiges and like dark greens of the world. It pops out a really, really good way.
Yeah, like it brings itself out really well in like a wasteland game that doesn't really have anything bright and fun in it except for all these little pink things.
It's a dustier Mirror's Edge.
Amir's Edge, the shit's glowing, which is specifically what he said he didn't like about
Oh,
it.
I thought it was just red. Well,
Yeah,
it's
but
been
I
a
mean,
long time since I've played that.
It's definitely in the same vein of why I like Mirror's Edge, though, is all the red things. You know, you're supposed to do the stuff on the red things.
You like it because I played it for you.
Yeah, I played it myself also.
Hunter,
Prove it.
drop a deuce in here.
Okay, Obra Dinn.
Yeah, I honestly should have put Obra Dinn on my list.
Never heard of it.
It was in one of my one of the ones I knocked out, but I didn't put enough time into it to like confidently speak on it.
I can't confidently speak on any video games.
I mean, it reminds me of all those stupid little gifs of like the stick figures fighting,
Sean, look out.
Mhm.
smashing a door or whatever. So I just really like that part of it.
Yeah, it's
It's called like 1-bit or something.
yeah, they describe
like
it as
that.
1-bit, which obviously like isn't true, but like it's hard to. There's no other game that I can think of that looks like that game.
I mean, it is 1-bit color depth.
Yeah, I thought of putting it on here, but World of Horror also kind of does that. But that's technically not done yet, so it wouldn't count.
Doesn't count. We have
It'll
standards here.
show up in 7 years when we do the next one of these.
All right.
Matt,
Alrighty,
I gotta pee.
top of the Snowy Mountain. What do we got?
the final
So,
round.
The thing that I like more than Snowy Mountains, believe it or not,
I don't.
is the ocean.
Oh,
So
okay.
Subnautica as my number one.
Oh, Sea of Thieves.
Yep.
Yes, Sea of Thieves. I love the way that game does Stranded in the Middle of the Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It's buggy, sure. It might as well be a Bethesda game, but that's beside
Shots
the
fired,
point.
Todd.
Yeah.
Now he's aiming them at Phil Spencer now.
Oh yeah, sorry, I can't aim shots until it's silly.
But just the way that the daylight cycle happens, and then you're just in the middle of the ocean, and everything's dark, and you can't see shit. You have to go up to the surface if you want to see anything, unless you've progressed to the point of having headlights. And just the way that it does that uncertainty with like the background noise and the noises that the creatures and shit make, it's the ambiance of the entire game is just fantastic, and I love it.
I think that there being like a plethora of really, really bad underwater levels in video games make people shy away from doing it. But like Abzu and Subnautica, I think hit the underwater theme while being completely like different visual styles from each other. They both hit it incredibly effectively.
They do.
Matt,
And
your picks have
honestly,
been
Subnautica-
a great selection of things I'm going to put on my missed connections, because that's another
Definitely
one
play it.
That's why
Definitely
Sean's doing
play
this.
I mean,
solid-
honestly, yeah.
solid
I will say
services.
it also does the above water stuff really well.
Okay, that's great,
Which-
Matt. But what kind of tools or
Above
weapons
Nautica.
or items does Subnautica have?
It has lots.
It's got a
Can you
scuba suit.
describe them?
It has a knife that cooks food for you when you hit shit with it.
Can't believe Breath
That's
of
what we
Wild
all
stole
need.
that.
I tell you what. Can you believe they put Link in Subnautica?
Yes. At this point, yes.
Yeah.
Put Minecraft
so,
Steve in Subnautica.
Can't believe Subnautica's in Smash.
yeah. That's my number one.
Hey Ryan, what's my number one?
Ace Combat VR.
Ooh,
I don't
should
know.
put that.
I feel like I
Funko
should know
Gears of
because you're
War.
asking me, but I don't.
Tetris
Frog
Effect.
Fractions.
My number one is Tetris Effect. Because
Oh,
of course
I assumed it would be.
Because of course it is.
Yeah.
Why I once again I'm not sure what there is for me to say about that game, other than that they made cool fucking Tetris. It's while it is much harder to play Tetris in VR, it's a cool VR experience. But top to bottom, I think that is the best looking game of the previous generation of consoles. It's coming out to Xbox One in 10 days.
I'll be getting it.
So the Xbox One version does technically count as a game of this generation as it comes out before the Xbox One console or the Xbox Series S.
But didn't Tetris Effect come out on PS4, so it counts already?
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying you could play it and still have it even technically count.
I would have had it count because it came out on PS4.
Yeah, but you haven't played. You're not going to play that version. You're going to play the Xbox version.
So
Tetris
I'll compromise and play neither.
And I think that game's marvelous, and it's done in such a way that I think it will continue to stand the test of time because nothing about it is per se realistic. So it's always going to be this rad motherfucking looking version of a perfect game.
That's just like
And-
Smash Boys.
Yeah, Smash Boys, Orange Ricky, the whole lot
I'm
of
a
them.
big
They
fan
look-
of Orange Ricky.
It's the best looking Orange Ricky you've ever goddamn seen. But yeah, it's
not-
Tetris Effect.
But they're not orange.
It's what if we did the luminous
Ricky.
skin system to fucking Tetris. I
Yeah.
talked about
And
Tetris a lot on a
Tiwi's
podcast
in there
already.
looking really good.
And it's got the squariest heroes you've ever seen.
So do you have this picture pulled up, or did you just memorize them?
I've memorized a lot of them because I really fucking like Tetris, and also that graphic isn't true, but that didn't
I
stop them from
have-
putting it on Jeopardy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
that's all I got.
I nicknamed somebody at work Tiwi, and I'm Rick James, and Orange Ricky is what I've taken up. He thought my name was Ricky. And I was like, Orange Ricky?
Orange Ricky, I said to a stranger.
And then I started calling him Tiwi, and it all worked out.
Ryan, what's your number one? What's the cream of the crop?
All right. So the way I decided this one was a game that I go to strictly to look at. It's the
The Witness.
first thing that
Senran
it's a-
Kagura.
My
We
bedroom
we
window.
cable channel.
It's YouTube. It's the first thing that pops into my head when I want to just like kind of show somebody who's never done a video game before, like a video game. And I want to stick with the ocean theme, so I went with Abzu for mine. I think,
Sean's got
Yeah.
sweaty pits.
yeah, congratulations, Sean.
No.
Whoever's behind him is really excited.
It's just such a good game to just kind of look at. You sit down, you relax. I think it is this generation's like Proteus, where it's like that's just a game I pop into, I do the thing for a little bit, just kind of interact with the environment. It takes me a couple hours, I get through it, and I get out. But everything I get out of it it's all visual based, and I think at no point does that game really miss the mark with its cool stuff. It's densely packed with fish. It has a fish slider.
No,
To
control the
decide
amount
how
of
much-
fish.
Yeah, you can control the amount of fish with the fish slider.
It is one of
But-
one of the great Bliss Out games.
Yeah.
Just, like
Yeah,
It
Subnautica
answers
is
one of-
not.
I think it answers like one of man's like most primal questions of what if a shark was a robot?
Yeah.
Sean, if your
But-
number one is not Absu, then what is your number one?
My number one is a game you're going to hear me talk about a whole lot, which Hunter already mentioned. Return to the Obra Dinn.
Hello.
I think this game, like, so I have no nostalgia for like any of the like old system screens that it's emulating. You know, I'm young and dumb, etc.
Right.
Full of cum.
But for a game that's intentionally about like obscuring detail and like picking up on what's important versus what is just chaff, I do think it's not what if you were to describe to me the concept of the game, I would never think of this style, but I think it helps it so much because like if this had, I don't know, it makes it feel almost less frustrating in some ways. It feels like you're almost in a memory like that, and that there's just this lack of detail. The faces are blurry, etc. And I think it makes great use of that low res look.
I agree.
You heard it here first, folks. Return to the Obra Dinn, one of the best looking games of the previous generation.
And you'll hear it again and again, me talking about Return to the Obra Dinn, so strap in.
Oh, sorry, Sean. We limited it to one per podcast.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been
One
good.
mention per podcast.
It's the only other game Sean had to talk about for the rest.
Jason, talk to me about Unravel 2 and go.
Well, my number one is a game I'm pretty surprised hasn't been mentioned yet,
Steep again.
Steep 2.
but
Steeper.
it is another sequel. It's Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal has a very good fucking look.
I think that game has the best kill animations of any video game I've ever played,
Mm-hmm.
and just in like the enemies are all great looking. I don't remember the names, but like probably my favorite looking bad guy in a video game is the fucking little floating ball.
Yeah,
That guy demon.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just good, and
It's a meatball.
I love glory killing them. I think that alone, like, that is one of the best kill animations. And I'm
Yeah, I
really
It's
really
also
like
got
the
just a
glory
really
hole in the
cool.
Thanks, Sean.
It's
Got
got a
you.
really cool kind of like metal album cover based style to it. It's really cool. I think I wrote it down somewhere in here.
Yeah, I mean, and like I wasn't gonna put Doom and Doom Eternal on my list because they both look kind of the same. I just chose the newer one with better stuff.
But I
Yeah,
also think that
and
Doom Eternal, like doing the like angel shit and then also doing the like Citadel shit of like the Doom all of the other like Slayers, all of that stuff. It's all just I mean Ryan described it the best. It's like a metal cover. Like it all kind of feels like vaguely, also like minorly some Viking shit in there. You know, just a lot of things that would have battle axes probably involved.
Yeah, it's mine that it made my number one probably a little bit because it's probably like the prettiest of all the games I chose, just because it's the newest.
Runs silky smooth, despite looking goddamn gorgeous. Hunter, talk about Persona 5.
It's not on this. I mean, I could have put it. It
Swing and a miss.
It was Cumhead. We already talked about Cumhead. And
Good looking game.
I thought Cumhead was your number 2.
No, Obra Dinn was number 2.
Oh shit.
I thought Obra Dinn was my number one.
Matt stole my number 1.
Damn. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah, I'll
that's-
catch again.
Always
that's,
a cumhead, never
everyone-
a man.
Shit.
I'll
That was
gladly
it.
pay you Tuesday for
Since it never
catching
came up,
day.
and Jason somewhat reminded me of it, I would like to give an honorary award to the Wolfenstein franchise for how much they really care about animating you murdering dogs.
God.
Lovingly crafted dog murdering. Like it's really uncanny how much detail they put into you just fucking killing dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
No, I mean those are also very good looking games, but just a similar vein of Doom. I didn't want to have I didn't want to have 4 of my top 5 being things that all look the same.
I do feel like this is a
Dash.
category I could have gone on and on about, even with my limited playing. There's video games look good.
There's a bunch of really cool.
It was the
looking video
longest of
games.
my categories that I ended up having to cut down.
Yeah, I had some painful cuts, I feel like.
My second category will be the one I talk about each thing the least.
Well, on the topic of painful cuts, we need to cut it right here. And that's going to be all for the Best Visuals episode. And you will join us next time for the best characters of the generation.
Nobody's going to watch it.
Now everybody go change their shirts.
Yeah.
Okay.